100,000 years ago, the Earth, although deceptively similar in appearance, was actually very different. This was the last Ice Age, a time when Earth was home to some of the most incredible animals to ever walk our planet. Join me as we explore the amazing megafauna that lived on our planet at this time, and also delve into the lives of our ancestors who lived alongside these giant titans. Enjoy. I don't think there's any better way to start off a video about Ice Age megafauna than with the poster boy of the Ice Age himself, the woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth, scientifically labelled as Mammoths primigenus. The woolly mammoth, scientifically labelled as Mammoths primigenus, is by far the most famous of the Ice Age animals. Even though they're extinct, the woolly mammoth is obviously still widely known around the Earth, and this is for many different reasons. The first reason being the Ice Age movies. Secondly, their appearance. Their shaggy coat, large tusks, and massive size make them immediately recognisable to us. Thirdly, as a relative of modern elephants, for a lot of people, the woolly mammoth provides an emotional connection to an emotionally intelligent animal that lives today, being elephants. And finally, the woolly mammoth is used as an example of the Ice Age extinction events, and is used in a lot of discussions about extinction events and climate change today. But mammoths didn't just develop cultural significance amongst us humans when the lifelike reconstructions and the films were made. The woolly mammoth fully evolved in eastern Siberia about 300,000 years ago, and is a direct descendant of the steppe mammoth, or Mammothus troglodytes for the nerds. I definitely pronounced that wrong, definitely. Although we do start to see steppe to woolly changes in the region about 800,000 years ago. The woolly mammoth was a widespread species. It inhabited Asia, North America and Europe, which is basically along the northern hemisphere of the globe, which is this area along here. Hopefully there's some sort of graphic for you to look at there. If not, sorry. The woolly mammoth never wandered below the equator, so they never made it to South America, Africa or Arabia, roughly somewhere there. They obviously hated the heat because they had thick woolly coats, a fashion trend that people would later go on to copy. The woolly mammoth set in the trends way before humans even started doing fashion. That's how it goes. In fact, the furthest south the woolly mammoth ever made it was northeastern China, which means that Homo sapiens never actually got to meet one until we decided to pack up and actually leave Africa. Human migration out of Africa is very messy and very complicated, something that I can't actually be asked to cover in this video. So if you want me to cover it in a different video, just leave a comment below. I do have another video talking about the human species before Homo sapiens migrate in Africa, so if you're interested, go and watch that. It's a good video if I say so myself. But basically, one of the first places we migrated out of was here, and that was about 100,000 years ago. We then went over here, but there were no mammoths living there. About 20,000 years later, for some reason, we decided to move up here and then here. And it's in these areas where our ancestors would have met their first woolly mammoth and many of the other scary and amazing Ice Age megafauna that lived in the same region. We find the first evidence of Homo sapien occupation in the same area as mammoths in the Balkans region. But before we go any further, it's probably a good idea to paint the picture a little bit and talk about what the area actually looked like. So most of Europe and Asia was home to many different types of habitats. So we've got mountains, lakes, rivers, caves, and I'm missing one, forests. But the most dominant habitat at the time was the mammoth steppe, and this was giant and it spanned the entire globe. So we're talking from Spain to Canada and all the way up in the Arctic down to even China. It was big area, big coverage. So this cold, windy and dry tundra was dominated by low-growing shrubs and grasses that were very nutritious enough to support giant animals. Trees were sparse and uncommon and only really found at the edges of the landscape. Open plains, river valleys and rocky areas were typical. Permafrost was common, which made the ground hard, and water drainage, which would have made it awful to farm anything on. Not a place you'd like to grow your taters, am I hell, that's terrible. Despite the depressing and gloomy atmosphere that I've painted the Mammoth Steppe in, it was home to a variety and an abundance of Ice Age megafauna. One of which was the woolly mammoth, who was so abundant in this landscape that we literally named the entire habitat after them. So what was life like for us around the woolly mammoth? Well, we know that mammoths were important to humans living in Europe because they decided to create art resembling them. Chauvet Cave in southern France is home to these 32,000-year-old mammoth paintings that look like they were painted by a prepubescent child. I'm no artist, but I mean, just look at it. It was awful. This one in Rouffignac Cave, which I've definitely pronounced wrong, is dated to 20,000 years old, and it's much better. Maybe it was actually painted by an adult this time. And then, look, his tusk. That's terrible. Is that an eye? Oh, me. Yeah. Oh my god, that is terrible. Oh my god. I'm not here to draw you pictures, I'm here to tell you facts. So if you don't like my pictures, then you can move on. Simple as, I don't care. This is not the way of my artistic expression. So, I don't care what you say. In Swabian Jura Plateau, a cute, tiny, teeny little mammoth figure was found, and it dates to 35,000 years ago, making it the oldest mammoth-inspired art. These are examples of how important the mammoth is to us, even going back as far as 35,000 years ago. But things get a little darker when we actually find out what the figure was made out of. The mammoth figurine was made out of mammoth ivory. Now, I doubt the mammoth willingly gave up its tusk, meaning that it was probably brutally killed and butchered while its family and friends watched. I don't know why I said that. So it sounds like the woolly mammoth was more scared of us than we were of it. But they weren't any sort of pushover by any stretch of the imagination. Life alongside the woolly mammoth would have been scary. And with research suggesting that male woolly mammoths had temper tantrums, I couldn't think of anything scarier than being next to a male woolly mammoth in the Ice Age that just got rejected by one of the females in his group. Terrifying, if you ask me. The dangers of coexisting with such a massive and imposing animal definitely came with the occasional fatality or injury, even with careful planning and group cooperation. Indirect evidence of common skeletal traumas in Ice Age humans and modern experiences with elephants show that it would have been a great risk to live alongside this Ice Age giant. But it's okay guys, we eventually became very good at killing them. Like at a mammoth kill site in Arizona, where the remains of 12 young mammoths were found. The people there were obviously very nice, they decided to target and kill the baby mammoths. Another site near Mexico City this time, the remains of 14 individual mammoths were found. The people here use pits to trap the mammoths. There's 2 pits that have been found, about 5.5 feet deep and 82 foot in diameter. The pits were strategically placed in areas where the mammoths were likely to migrate or roam, maybe near something like a water source. The people there likely used coordinated efforts to drive the mammoths into the pits. This could be done with loud noises, fire, or throwing projectiles like spears to scare the mammoths into a panic and to guide them into the pits. And then they would have stabbed them with their spears and then feasted on their corpse and wore their skin. Classic human behaviour. Terrible. That's enough about mammoths. I want to talk about some of the other scary animals. I think I'm going to give you some quick-fire herbivores. I think that's the best way to go about this. So get ready for big herbivores quick-fire round. Get ready. First up, we have the woolly rhinoceros, which is also referred to by the nerds as Silodonta antiquitatus. Weighing up to 3,000 kg, they had long and sharp horns. Steppe bison, also known as bison priscus. Larger than modern bison, weighing up to 1,000 kg and travelling in large herds. I need to stop doing that weird thing at the end. Giant deer, Irish elk or Megaloceros giganteus. 6.5 feet at the shoulder with an 11.5 feet diameter of their antlers. That took me a while to get out, but wow! These are just some of the large herbivores that would have encountered us on the cold tundras of the Ice Age. These giant herbivores would have posed a real threat to any humans living in the area. In fact, studies actually show between 20 and 30% of adult humans living in areas like the Mammoth Steppe suffered Brutal injuries, really, you know, broken bones, skull fractures, punctures, and these would have been the result of encountering these giant herbivores. Yeah, some nightmare fuel if you ask me. With so many large herbivores roaming North America, Europe and Asia, Mother Nature needed to come up with some sort of plan to stop them from overpopulating. How did she keep these giant herbivores and their numbers under control, you may ask? Well, the answer is giant predators. No, I'm not joking, and the people living in the Ice Age, who were obviously very unfortunate, had to live with these giant killers. Cave hyenas, which their scientific name is too difficult for me to pronounce, were basically roided up versions of modern day hyenas. They were also one of the predators that was roaming the Mammoth steppe, as well as other habitats that Ice Age Europe and Asia were home to. They weighed up to 110 kg, which is a lot heavier than me, and they stood up to 3 foot at the shoulder, which is, well, just a little shorter than me. This meant that they were about 20% larger than modern day hyenas, which are already f***ing frightening if you ask me. I do not want to be around hyenas, I do not want to hear them laughing as they're chasing me, and I certainly don't want to be around the roided up versions of them. This size and strength allowed them to hunt larger prey. We're talking about horses, reindeer, and even young mammoths. Fossil evidence suggests that the cave hyenas lived in packs of around 20 and 30 individuals. Now, this combined with their strength and literal bone-crushing bite meant that they could take down massive herbivores, and also pose a real threat to other predators like cave lions and even us humans. Human bones bearing hyena tooth marks have been found in multiple sites across Europe, especially in caves, which doesn't necessarily suggest predation, but at least suggests scavenging. And in some cases, the damage does indicate predation, which is very frightening, to put it lightly. We also know that Ice Age people respected or even feared these animals because they featured them in a lot of their art. And not only did they feature it in their art, but they featured it alongside other giant and imposing animals like cave lions, bears and mammoths, especially in Chauvet's cave, where we see a couple of different cave hyenas painted. And if I was them, I'd get scared of them too. Cave lions, or Panthera spilea, were 25% larger than modern lions, with males possibly weighing over 350 kg and standing 4 foot at the shoulder, which is getting dangerously close to my height now. These lions and their giant size and strength helped them hunt large prey. They were also helped by the fact that they hunted in packs like modern lions do. We're talking about woolly rhinos, horses, giant Irish elk. Even juvenile mammoths would have been on the menu for these lions, and the fact that they hunted in packs would have also posed a massive threat to other predators. The cave hyenas would have probably themselves and ran off, and so would have we. And of course, like every other predator, we took some sort of punishment from them. Yeah, I would be scared if I lived next to these lot too. See, humans like to live in caves, and so did cave lions, hence the name, which would have left some nasty surprises for both the lions and the humans. Evidence of large feline bites on human bones are rare, but they're not absent. Fossil evidence of human bones around Europe, consistent with the time of the Ice Age, show signs of lion bites, showing that they may have preyed upon humans time to time, although they weren't on the menu consistently. And some human settlements even show signs of cave lion attacks, which is frightening to think of. Sat around the campfire with the boys, some of your mates, your family, whatever, and then all of a sudden a pride of these giant lions just jump out and start killing everyone. It's nightmare fuel, to be honest with you. I'm so glad I'm not alive during that time. Jeez, it would have been terrible. Archaeological evidence also shows that humans built barriers at the front of their caves to keep out these cave lions. Or was it something else? Something much larger, something much more scary. It was only a matter of time before we came onto the giant bears that lived in Europe at the time, so I'm just going to get straight into it. Cave bears, or Ursus spilius, were giant bears, bigger than bears that live today, like the polar bear and the Kodiak bear, much bigger than those. which is terrifying because those bears are already scary enough. They weighed around 1000 kg and stood about 11 foot on their hind legs. On the bright side, these bears were mostly herbivorous. They mostly ate berries, nuts, things like that. But that's not where the problem comes from. The problem comes from these bears loved their caves, hence again the name cave bear. And they hibernated during the winter. Why is this a problem, you may ask? Well, the cave bears monopolized prime cave locations. This was like the prime real estate of the Ice Age, I suppose, and the cave bears were on top. They forced humans and other animals to compete for well, worse caves, to be honest with you. I don't know how else to word it. Some caves in Europe are home to thousands and thousands of cave bear bones, which indicates that the caves were not only monopolized by the bears, but they were monopolized for generations. Humans really didn't get a look in when it came to picking what cave they wanted, and if they managed to stumble into a cave where a hibernating cave bear was, well, we'll get into that later. Human remains near cave entrances show that humans did sometimes attempt to dislodge the bears from their caves. Obviously, the fact that the human remains are at the entrance of the cave show that they failed. I don't know what they was thinking. They probably thought, oh, the boys, we're going to go in there and we're going to get this bear out the cave and all. No, that didn't happen. The bear obviously came out and probably like messed a few people up, and then the rest of them were like, nah, and just ran off. Which is probably what I would do as well, to be honest with you. Nah, no way. That's about all we have time for. I would have liked to talk about some of these animals in greater depth. We talked a lot about the woolly mammoth, learned a lot about that lad. Talked about, you know, a brief quick fire round of some of the other herbivores that we would have encountered on the tundras, and as well as some of the predators that not necessarily preyed upon us, but would have competed with us for prey, which would have definitely instigated some conflicts and cross of territory, things like that. I would definitely like to do something like this further in the future, so if you enjoyed it, let me know. We can do a part 2, maybe talk about more of the megafauna in North America, maybe Smilodon, short-faced bear, just to drop a few names and a few hints there. We could talk about, you know, Africa, the megafauna in Africa. We had a crocodile that was bigger than today's crocodiles. Or maybe you want to hear about some of the megafauna that lived alongside humans in Asia, or maybe somewhere like Australia. But let me know anyway. It's a bit of a different style of video, so if you enjoyed it, let me know. And yeah, have a good one.